I'm I'm in a right and proper mood for a little bit of blasphemy in the morning. But no, when I say cultists, because we all know there's a difference between a cultist and an occultist, and they're not even in the same ballpark. Especially because the occultist gets to have fun. The cultist gets to belong to a social order. All right. So I was watching a video with with a young couple in the streets who come across a Christian street preacher. You know, he's got his little Jesus Saves box and his audio set up and his prepared lines to establish the vision of heaven on earth, right? And all that stuff. And these guys are that confront are upset, very, very upset, wearing their emotions on their sleeves and arguing the finer points of the historical precedent of whose view of cosmology is authentic versus imposter, right? Now, of course, I agree with their argument, and I agree that confrontation is called for. But, if you want to overcome the cults of Abraham, you're going to have to know their word better than them. And you're going to have to put your emotions out of it. If you don't know, and if you don't know it, you don't know their scripture better than them, or you don't have the kenas to stop them, they're going to win. They're going to win because you're the one that's upset. You're the one that looks like you have issues. Everybody will be impressed by the guy standing there stalwart, right? And that video doesn't end with that. In fact, a police officer, I think a constable, I think they're somewhere in Albion. A police officer shows up to to basically to stop them, because all they're doing is assaulting him, right? That's all that they're doing, right? Because whether they like it or not, they live in a world that allows that shit to happen. So they're having this argument with this guy. There's no audience other than the camera, right? It does, that one honestly doesn't make us look good. It makes us look like we're complaining about a God who lords over us. I'm not bothered by the Archon like that anymore. I mean, like, I'm bothered, I'm bothered by it for others. I'm bothered by it for the terrible way, but like, you can also operate in this world despite there being Christian influence in it. Because you also have to remember that those Christians, like, there's two levels that Christians are fucking dumb, okay? There's level one is being lied to about how much of their tradition is pagan, including pagan local to your culture, right? The whole Yule time, right? Yule time got turned into the Christ Mass, right? And they are trying to drown out that. And all those satanic corporations were actually doing us a big fucking favor by at least keeping some raw minimum traditions alive, stripping them of their ritual components. But you can reverse engineer the history. But that will not work in your argument. And remember, you're not arguing to really change the preacher, the source. You're doing this, you're playing for the audience. That's the only area where the effect works, is playing for the audience. Who's listening to the two of you fucking going back and forth? People are going to be impressed with the person with the stoic spirit, because he's not, the preacher's not getting emotion. The druids are getting emotion, right? The druids are, look, it's victimy to do it that way. It's fine. You're not like crying, right? You're just angry, right? But it's still coming from, like, that's more about therapy for them releasing pain. They got a long way to go before they're going to be effective at shutting them up. The only way you're effective at shutting them up is going into the Bible deeper. Satanists, basic, shallow Satanists, barely know the Bible better. Barely. And they're still twisting it towards a much more nihilistic agenda. There are some Satanists I've heard that are much more interesting, but I'm reserving judgment for now. It takes a while for me to absorb certain nuances and digest them. Because, like, the crazier thing is that the deeper you dive into what the Bible is, putting it all together with proper etymology and context, the less, the more power it gives you over them. The more power it gives you over them, right? Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to prove that the Bible is constructed mythology to manipulate people. It's a constructed mythology to manipulate people into different social power structures. In the pagan world, we didn't do such a thing as basically an imperial disposition, right? Caesar didn't need everybody to be worshiping his gods in the pagan day, right? That wasn't the manner in which people, upheld the empire. When the people started thinking about one God and started thinking about that one God as authority on earth, that's when all that shit started happening, right? There's a lot of shit that's, mythologically entitled onto the Emperor of Rome, right, in the Roman pagan tradition. that is many of the elements that they did to construct the mythos of Jesus, to then apply to the mythos of the Christ, and then to use that to break a Abrahamic religious system that was henotheistic, and say that that religion applied. It was that it was a tribe thing. It was coming from a pagan god. But look, the Jews, the people are just angry because there was a tribe of Jews that have held their longevity that were scribes. They were a tribe of scribes that were henotheistic to Yahweh, and back in the day, his wife. Allegedly, she's still there, just occulted, but they still do honor her in like a deep secret way. Kind of like the way they keep their women deeply held behind them, right? You know, the whole ownership to my husband thing, and then, you know, good husband. Look, there's a whole world for anybody. Like these Jews will live amongst the world. Like they'll see punks, metalheads, yuppies, whatever, walking down the street right beside them, and you know, the woman's right there. You know, like they have any, like they can listen to anything from the outside world they want and make the choice to say, I don't want to be owned by my husband and by proxy God. But things are good. Things are good for them. Just like for some Mormons, things are good for them. For some of them, they don't honor how they got people that it's not for them. I want out because I've chosen the individuation process, and don't demonize me because I am listening to my daemons. Finally, you know, you know, like when we talk about our spirit guides, our guardian angels, all we're doing is talking about our daemons, right? You know, our personal norns sometimes, you know, in the Norse tradition, they've been called, so on and so forth, right? So those druids would have had more emotional control, more cognitive wit and faculties to truly take this guy on. But instead, they fell into the shaitan trap. They fell into the adversary trap, right? That all of it is about you. You are my opponent in front of my face. It's like, no. I mean, yes, but you're getting emotional because, you know, you're hoping that their faith is like, because you're testing their faith. Don't do that. Don't test their faith. If there's anything you can't do to a Christian like him, is test his faith. That'll never work. You're never going to get him to go down to your level. And that's what it is. Because if I was standing there next to you, I you know, like, anything I would be interested in doing, I would not do. Because I would unfortunately have to leave you to fight that battle by yourself, because I can't, like, my contribution would not be emotionally appropriate to yours. I'd be standing there like this, you know, breaking down a theology and its inferiority and value or something like that, right? You know, because I can really break down a fucking verse of sorts, right? I mean, they're yelling at a guy who doesn't even have a fucking audience. He's just yelling like that. I don't know, it's like dark out. He's doing it in the middle of the night, is his inclination, because he's out there to annoy demons, right? And like, look at it, you look at the guy in the guy's eye. You see this with all these preachers, all the same, right? They're well trained for this. Well trained, it's what they're trained for. Don't give them what they're trained for. Most fucking fights in the MMA, the ones that are over way too fucking quick, is because you gave your fucking opponent what he expected, right? If you know that every fucking fight I'm gonna open up with a fucking jab, a very particular kind of jab and a particular kind of haymaker follow-up or something, you're going to be prepared for those two moves and have a counterpunch that's going to knock me out, and the fight's going to be over in about 3 seconds. You have a lot more work to do if you're going to want to make them look bad. Otherwise, you're going to fall into a trap out of some desperation, some false equivalent desperation of wanting to see paganism rise the way Christians want to see Christianity rise. People kept yelling at me as a non-Christian for having this evangelistic mindset about it, right? To be almost, to be sometimes Alex Jones levels of belligerent of the importance of acknowledging animism as a fact, or whatever the fuck my belief was, at that particular time. Guys, it's time that if you got a passion to really shut up the Christian bleeding their message into the public streets, it's really high time you come with the mental guns. You're gonna have to fucking crack open that Bible. You're gonna have to crack open his weapon, because listen, all of this training is to support the biggest fraud of a book club. It's a fraudulent book club, book cult of a fictitious person, the Brahmin, Abraham, understand the fucking etymology. It'll get funny. You'll find the fucking humor in it. Once you start realizing the humor in what it actually says in the Bible, that's what's going to fucking give you the power to intellectually kick his ass, and you'll be leaving with a smile. He's gonna be a bit he's gonna be interested in packing up, because you've crushed everything, and you're still holding your ground, and you're resolute. Right? The Stoics knew this. And the Stoics, I don't think we're ever wrong.